We'll be getting started in about 20 minutes. I'll be back. Thank you. Testing 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2. Crappy cameras are crappy. Testing 1 2 1 2. Oh, echoes. It's a little better, I guess. Alright, I'll be back soon. It's a little better, I guess. Got about a 10-second delay. Alright, so I'll be back soon. What in the hell? Alright. Still got 8 minutes. How are we going to do with 8 minutes? I guess we'll probably start a little bit early here. So consider yourselves lucky. Or not. Because if you thought you had 8 minutes, I guess you have setup time and that's about it. So, here we go. What are we going to do today? Well, I have this little stopwatch program that I use, and guess I'm going to have to purchase a license for it because I support things that I use, just as I would encourage you to do so as well. But that shouldn't stop us from actually taking a peek into its code around its registration points. Now, of course, again, I would not encourage anybody to circumvent licensing and utilize it for their own purposes. So, that being said, I'm going to stop that, and we'll use it for demonstration purposes, learning, and see if there's anything that we can do about potentially reaching out and helping make it a little more secure or better if that turns out to be the case. If not, then hey, we're good, we're golden. That being said, right now I am using it in trial mode, and I'm not sure what that entails, but let's find out. Free evaluation version. Whether or not it has a time frame or what, I'm not sure, but hey, yeah, we're gonna like it. Try not to dox myself in the process. So cool that it kind of covers everything up there. Except I can't see it either. You must log in and continue. So I'll go ahead and like it later, because I do, and it suits my purposes and needs. So that being said, we have a register button here. Pops up a little window like this. Says license holder, license key. For information on how to receive a license of fully functional version of software, please visit blah. I'm going to visit blah over here real quick. Let me go ahead and pop this screen up over there as well real quick for us. Let's shoot, I think it's 3. Guess we'll find out in a moment. Yes, it is. Alright, perfect. Okay, there we go. And here we go. So, company of 2 users. Okay, I'm not a company. Personal. Okay. Well, let's see here. Either way, buy now at Share It, buy now at Reg Now. Well, Reg Now's no fun. At least uBlock Origin doesn't seem to like it. What about Share It? Looks like Share It goes through just fine. $30 US. Alright, so get paid this Friday. We'll do that. For now, let's evaluate the software and bring a little awareness to it and the fact that it is available and you can grab it. Of course, there's probably freeware that does the same thing. So afterwards of everything we discovered today, we'll definitely determine that, but it does have a I'm going to use the word ass load of features. For example, this is the compact version of it here, and you can break it out to the full if you want. I happen to quite like the compact, and you can restyle it however you want. You can use different time sources, you can change the refresh rate, format, triggers, you can have it, start programs. It's quite handy actually. Definitely some time has gone into it. And that is Creative Commons licensing. Whew. Live dashboard. Alright, so let's go ahead and get rid of that monitor. We're not going to need that anymore. Poof, gone. And we're back. Okay, that being said, let's dive into this software here real quick as far as licensing, see what it has and what we can learn. If you have any questions, feel free to throw those out in the chat and I'll do my best to see them and answer them. And that being said, here we go. Alright, so first things first, we're going to pop over here to Ollie. Now if things are blurry, let me know. I have it upscaling so that the buttons aren't tiny in case people are watching this not on 1080. So let's first things first, attach, and this thing is going to be called stopwatch. Xnote stopwatch attach. See what happens when we attaching. And it appears that it has, oh, there it goes. For a moment I thought it was going to lock up on us. Let's go ahead and let it continue to run. And if you can't see things I'm clicking, like up here, these are the menus. Trying to get those to capture is just a nightmare with sizing. So yeah, I'm just clicking file, going to attach. So when it looks like I'm clicking on nothing, it's most likely a menu. Most of our clicking is going to be in here. Let me see if I can capture layered windows, because right now it is not. There we go. Okay, still not showing up. Might have to do a monitor capture on that section. What is this? Okay, right. Let's add it real quick, because that's going to be a little bit better for us here. Okay, monitor 1. Subregion select. Whew. That is definitely a selection. Bring it down a bit. This way we'll actually get the whole thing in there, I suppose. Gonna have to do some creative resizing, of course. There we go. That might be about right. Let's call it good. That is on. Let's turn off Ollie. And it's not showing anything. Let's see here. Position and size, fit to screen. Nope. Center. Order. Move to top. That doesn't work at all. Well, we're going to deal with it for this stream, and the next one I will fix that, because it is definitely not working. So, not to worry. I think it's because I already have one in this field on that monitor. Anyhow, here we go. So maybe we will start on time. So if I'm right clicking, I'll tell you what I'm going to in the menu, because I do notice you cannot see the menu that's popping up. Sorry about that. You'll just have to deal with it this time. Yeah, that sucks. Oh well. Anyhow, here we go. So we're going to go to About. We get a nice little registration page. We see that Ollie's doing some things already. Started a new thread. If we were to go to View Executable Modules, we see there's a ton of them. And again, that was just View Executable Modules. And currently we're in this guy here. Let's click Register. We get another menu. And that is so blurry. I do apologize, but yeah, you're going to have to deal with it. Let me see if I can fix it a little bit. Definitely not helping. It's not doing anything. Oh well. Does this change things? That didn't make sense. It's not even over there. Apparently you can't change things on the fly anymore. What in the... What even? Okay. I don't even know. Let me go remove. Yes. Remove. Yes. This guy. See if we can't get it to be not so blurry. do full screen preview mode. Oh, this is just awful. Okay, so preparedness, strike one. But hey, when you're rushed, what do you expect from me? Come on. Seriously. Can't always be perfect, right? There we go. Alright, so that's not too bad. We can at least see it. It does take up a bit of space, but I'll just be moving things out of that space as needed. So, bam. Alright, license holder, FJLJ, license key, some stuff. Now let's make sure that I haven't already taken a peek at this and put in a bunch of breakpoints, which I probably have. Let's just get rid of those. Okay, now we've entered some stuff. We get an error message. It seems you have entered the key erroneously. Please re-enter. Alright, well, we will re-enter in a moment. That being said, before we do so, we have a error message here. We're not sure what it is. One thing I like to do is pause the program's execution, hold Alt, press F9, which tells it to execute until user code, or it opens GeForce Experience. Okay, no, go away. Alt F9. Oh my. I am pressing F9 and I am pressing Alt, and apparently that's a hotkey for this. Do you want to turn on desktop capture and start recording? No, I don't. I want my hotkeys to work in Ollie. Alt F9. Good heavens. Alright, so I'm going to go to debug, execute tell user code. Jeez. Sometimes things are just annoying. And then now we see this nice little till user right here. So I got that by going to debug, execute till user code, which typically Alt F9 does. I wonder if I killed GeForce Experience so we would have that problem anymore. Exit. Alt F9. Yes, we still have that problem. Okay, well, I'll address that later. So then I'm going to hit OK, and I see that it's paused, so let me execute tell user code again. OK, and it's not doing much. So it has some sort of internal loop here that is preventing that to happen. That being said, I'm going to hit pause, run, and here we are again. Before I hit OK, I want to pause it, debug, execute tell user code, then I'm going to hit OK. Nope, nothing. Well, let's just go ahead and hit pause and run. Seems you have entered the key erroneously. Now, the next thing I do like to do is very simple. Executable modules, go to the main one here, right click, search for names. So I'm right clicking, there's a menu here you can't see. Search for about 2/3 of the way down. Pulls up another menu, go over to main names, bring that up so we can read it. I wish I could blow it up, but I can't, so deal with it. And I like to look for message box because, well, that's what is popping up at us. So let's right click the message box, find references, and unregistered copy. So that is definitely going to be some type of message when we start the program letting us know that it's not registered. And I'm going to hit F2 to put a breakpoint on it. Then we don't know what these two are. And this one is an error has occurred while saving. Not sure if that's going to apply to us or not, but I'll leave it for now. So we'll close that, go back to our CPU menu. Here we are. Any questions so far? Probably not. I'm going to hit OK, see if we get a breakpoint. And we do. And it breaks right here. So what I want to do is actually go to debug and step over, which you can't see, but that is F8. Because I want to land right here. And OK. OK. I'm clicking OK on our erroneous messaging. However, it is right here. We're going to need to hit pause, hit the minus sign on our numpad, put a hard breakpoint right there, here, here, and eventually we're going to want to be here. The other thing we will eventually look at is references to this call, but we'll get to that next. Because you trace it backwards. You start from where you're at, and you go forward with it. So here we've stopped outside of our message box, and we want to see what brought that message box upon us. Because we don't want to be erroneous. We want to be correct. So far, the program's doing really well. Now, let's see if it keeps it up. I'm going to hit F8 until we get down to the return. And then I'm going to hit an F7 to follow it. And we see here, it seems you have entered the key erroneously. There's our error message. Here's our call to the function that eventually gives us a pop-up message. So somewhere along the lines, this is being loaded and then told to call. We see that there is a jump landing point right there. However, figuring out where it comes from is a little strange. Let me do a Control A, analyze this section. There we go. And we see that we came from right here. And we see that there is another one that doesn't load that offset, but it does a message box from down here. Invalid license, okay. And then down here we see, thank you for registering. So the only landing point that is going to get us here versus here is this one here. So we have to make it past the invalid into the thank you. And we can only get to the invalid if we land here, which goes past the you have done a really bad key entry, which is from here. And so we need to circumvent that guy by either satisfying this one and landing here, and then satisfying that one and jumping over invalid, or by not jumping out here, so satisfying that one, landing here, going here, and checking the invalid. Now, I like to go to the top of the chain. However, are those the only two? Yes, they are. See here it says jumps from blah and blah. Here's our blah and blah. So here, how do we get there? Let's keep going on up. We see that there's a jump out that's going to go past that, but it goes past, way past, which sometimes way past is good. Other times way past is not so good. We'll come back to that in a minute. But for the time being, we know that we need to end up here, so we can end up here and go over all of that. So we need to end up here. And that brings us to one jump point, which is right here. To get here, we need to avoid this guy. To avoid that guy, which takes us, again, way past, which is likely going to be testing our value to see if we are already registered or something, or if there are errors, and we know that we need to land here. Continuing on up the chain, we see that here can only be reached from here, so if we are here, that's going to put us here, and then put us way down here. Again, we don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing not. OllyDebug can disassemble x64 applications. However, you have to get the x64 version of it, and I'll tell you right now, it is nowhere near completion. The best bet for 64 applications, believe it or not, is going to be a spin-off of it. I'll address that a little bit later as soon as I can find the link. And that would be for real-time debugging. As far as static debugging, probably IDA. The other question around 64 debugging, I know that Cheat Engine, you can actually do real-time debugging to 64-bit applications as well. It's a little bit different. The syntax is different as well, but it can be done, and we will be covering that soon too, because by far I take the easy way out, and Cheat Engine does have a lot of tools that can help with debugging, disassembling, and writing assembly code for both 32 and 64-bit. Now, back to what we were talking about. But yeah, good question. So this is strictly x86 today. We will be expanding, but in order to jump to 64, I find that it's good to have a solid confidence with x86, because same logic applies. Now, where was I? right. Erroneous. We know that we need to land here eventually, which means we need to end up in here, which means we need to end up here, which means we need to end up here, which means this one needs to happen. So if this one can happen, we are good. If that one doesn't happen, we'll either end up here, which then will push us way down. So here, yeah, so here. So this one needs to happen, we need to land here. If we don't land there, these are the things that are going to happen. Now these ones are going to take us most likely too far. Too far. Let's just bring this window down a little bit so we can see what the hell we're doing. And this guy here is also too far. So this guy, we need to end up here. We know that. And we need to avoid all this stuff. So let's put a breakpoint here so we know how to avoid it. And of course, eventually we would probably like to know where we came from to get to this place. Let's find some references real quick. I'm right clicking, going to find references to, select the command. There is one reference to it. That is here where it's being pushed onto the stack, and that would just be creating a dialog box. So beyond that, references to this command. We got two of them, and one of them's here, and nothing seems to, okay, this guy would jump over it. Again, decrement EAX. So let's start simple. We want to end up here, our next iteration. Here we are by hitting run. Let's go forward a little bit more. And we see that it's always happening. So I'm going to hold down F9, see if it ever stops and just gives us running or not. And there we go. So from here, yep, this is a portion of the internal loop, so it is definitely just being checked and 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 checked. So that's not going to help us too much. That being said, we can, in fact, toss a breakpoint on the reference to this guy. And there we go. Go back in over here. We see that we're not breaking. So something in here was being referenced. Hover over, move it, still not happening. Cool. So now we'll be able to click OK. We see that nothing is happening. So this dialog box already exists. So if we were to hit cancel when we hit register, we find here we are. So it's just going to be creating that dialog box for us. Not too helpful. So here we are again. We go back, and we know that we need to end up this guy? Yes, here. So let's put a breakpoint right there and see if we can get there by entering some information into our code. Now we see that we're always hitting that, and we want to be jumping. Most likely we're going to be, unless there's some other error. So we'll put one below it, and then here, this is okay. We know that we need to come down to here, and then this guy needs to be taken. So we want a breakpoint right here and see if any of those give us an automatic pause. Still getting one there, and that's fine. So we'll ignore that one for now because we have one further up the chain, and we can always see where we came from. So now we've got a license holder. Let's put in some random numbers with some spaces and see what happens. Okay, here we are. So we see that this next call, so this jump was not taken, or will not be taken. So likely this call is where things are happening. This next one, we're not sure what it's going to be doing yet. But most likely it's got something to do with loading this message and letting the program know that we done goofed. So what we want to do is put one here a little bit further back, run this guy again, hit OK, because this call is where our interesting stuff is going to happen. Let's go ahead and hit enter on it to follow it without running. And we see this fancy little format here. All right, that looks interesting. We see %2x dash %2x 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 %2x. So we were close on our formatting. I'm going to hit run real quick. All right, fine. Now %2x means that we're looking for 5 characters separated by a dash, whereas hex values. So like OA dash BE dash DE dash AD dash EF. All right, valid hex characters. So hit OK. We'll follow this in and hit F7 to bring our execution in here, and go ahead and go forward a little bit more. Let's see what happens when we pop out of this now. It's going to grab what we've entered. There we see it's in there. Or be dead F. And we see that it is now going to be putting individual values of essentially grabbing space on the stack, telling it a format, and then it's going to run a command putting those in their proper places. So, or something. You know, we can follow it and see exactly what it does, but I don't care. So, F8 to continue. It compares EAX with 5. So, hey, do we have 5 that fit this format that are separated by blah, 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 blah? And it says, why, yes, in fact, we do. So instead of clearing EAX, let's go ahead and continue forward. It's going to trim the characters. Bam. And then stir trim A. Okay, cool. And we see now that we have 10, which is OA. That's not exactly BE. We see EF, but there's no DE or AD for now. That's okay. And then it's going to call uppercase and convert those to capital letters. Cool. And now it's going to clear EAX, increment it to 1, pop EDI. So it's going to take it out of the stack, put it in the EDI. Same with ESI. So it's restoring the registers, restoring the stack, and returning. So now it's going to pull out ECX from the top of the stack, which is interesting all on its own. Let's follow that one in the dump. Right click. Okay, it's not an address to follow, so it is actually a value. Now if we look at that value, we see something that's not really similar to us, but it may be of interest. We'll find out soon. And I just realized you can't see any of that because, there we go, I'll just pull it over here. There we go. So now it's going to say, is EAX 0? If it's not, which it's not, then jump. We have not entered it erroneously. Alright, good. We've made the first hurdle. Not too hard. Then it's going to load into EAX the address of ESP plus 3E. Now ESP, of course, is here. We go to 3E. We see that that is going to be somewhere 2 bytes after this. Follow that guy. Not going to happen, it says. It's a stack pointer. Bring this up a little bit. Minus 3E. So whatever this is, minus 3E is what's going to go into EAX. And we see that that's where our minus? Oh, plus. we see that that's where our key begins to be stored. So somewhere right in here. And then we see that it's going to push that onto the stack again and do a call. Now this next call, we need to end up with something in EAX that is non-zero so we can jump over invalid. Now the easiest way to circumvent this without actually generating a key would be to force this one to, where's that here? Force this one to always jump and force this one to always jump, no key required. However, let's look a little bit deeper. F7. And now we see some interesting things. Alright, so let's hit F8, follow this through. And first things first, we see that there is a compare with some hard-coded reference here. Memory address. That's rather interesting stuff. Oops. But first it's comparing EBP with 4 zeros. Now EBP, I can't see it, it's so small, is 4 zeros. So let's hit F8, we see that it is going to jump. And it's going to come over here. So all of this very interesting stuff with cryptid and find resources. We're not sure where this comes into play yet. So we're going to follow this jump down to here. And we see that EAX is going to get loaded with some more interestingness because that again is a hard-coded address. So let's go ahead and follow and dump the memory address, and we see 9C A40100. That's not what I put in. So we're not sure how it comes into play yet, but I'm sure it's rather interesting. And then we see that we're pushing at 12. We're clearing EDX, so that's going to be 0. That's where our key was being stored, but it is no longer. So great. Then we're going to pop ECX. So now we put 12 into ECX. So instead of just right here putting 12 into ECX, we pushed it to the register and then popped it. And now we're going to do a division by ECX. So EAX is now going to be divided by 12, and the result will be an EDX, I believe. Oh, right. So maybe that's the remainder. One way we can find out is you can always right-click Help on Command, divides the value in the register pair EDX, EAX, treated as unsigned 64-bit integer or number by the contents of 32-bit register ECX. Okay, so EAX, EDX pair is divided by ECX, and the quotient is stored to EAX, remainder to EDX. So there was no remainder, and the result is truncated towards 0. Flags after this operation are undefined. Okay, cool. So we're not changing flag statuses here. Which is going to be these guys here. So now we're going to be storing EBP, which is 0 and would not have been affected by this. And we can F8. It's testing to see something about EAX and JBE. Jump if, let's find out, below or equal. So if it's less than or equal, if flag C is 1 or flag Z is 1, jumps to the instruction at address blah. All flags remain unchanged. Jump will be taken if A, treated as unsigned number, is smaller than or equal to unsigned B. So we had a compare. No, we had a test. And we see that our flags are now all 0. So this is not going to be I need a pot of coffee too. It's late, and yeah, but I got nothing better to do, and I was in the mood for this, and I have a laggy camera, so I'm good with a laggy camera. Anyhow, so we see that it's not going to be taken because we're testing against itself. Let's see here. help on command. Sets flags according to the result of bitwise logical AND between the contents 32-bit register EAX and the contents 32-bit register EAX. Now, if you are ANDing something with itself, can you see both hands? There we go. If you AND it with itself, obviously it's always going to be the same. Sets flag Z if EAX is 0 and clears it otherwise. So we made sure that we had some fresh flags. That's all it was doing. Now if something were to go wrong majorly, because if you know of a circumstance where that is going to not do that, please let me know, because it would definitely be strange. So it's not going to jump. It's not less than or equal. So in we go, and we see another strange offset being tossed into EBX. What all these hard-coded things are, Lord only knows. 3339 C6 8EDD. Okay, so it's just a moving that offset into EBX. So whether or not this is relevant at all, we have no clue, but that's okay. F8. And we see here that we have this value which does reference something in memory, but we don't know if that's what it's being used for or not at this time. Now we're going to be loading into EAX the contents of what is at this other address as well, which is going to be C817D100. And we see here it is, C817D100. Of course, it's always going to be backwards because that's the way things work. And then we're going to be tossing a 2 on the stack for whatever reason. We're going to add EAX and EBP. So EAX was this. EBP, I believe, was still 0. Yes, it is. So that did nothing. And we're going to push EAX onto the top of the stack. So we're setting up some arguments for something to be done. And next we're going to be, oh, look, our key that we provided is now going onto the stack. And what in the world is going to be happening in here? Well, looks like all sorts of magic is happening in here. I don't know about you, but that looks like an attempt at a very complex, complicated algorithm to calculate something. Now, are we interested in what in the world it does? Well, in some world, yes. So let's go ahead and pop on in here and see what happens every step of the way. Now, so far we've jumped over one chunk of it there because of we've satisfied the case 2 of the switch, which this up here that we just jumped over. Zoom on back up. Come on. Good heavens. Okay. There we go. Is nested if statements, aka a case or a switch case. So for whatever reason we have fallen into this category of it. Let me go ahead and bring us back by hitting the minus sign, and we see that ECX is now going to take on our key. Cool. ESI is going to take on that value we loaded from memory. EAX now is going to take on what is at the address of ECX, the first byte. So we see 30, there's a 0, perfect. And then move ZX EDX, the byte that is at ESI. So ESI is here, and now we realize that yes, these are going to be coming into play. Now we see 3939E7 7C. So let's grab the first byte. So 39 it is. It's going to then subtract the first one that we gave it and the one that it's loaded in there, and the jump is not going to be taken because, well, it's not satisfied. JZ is going to be jump of 0. So if we wanted it to jump, it's not going to be happening because, well, we are at now negative or unsigned very big. So signed -9. We know that OA was wrong, and potentially we need to remember the number 9. So that being said, let's go ahead and put down a 9. Which most likely this isn't going to matter, but we'll put it down anyways. So it's not going to be taken. It's going to clear EDX. It's going to test EAX. And then set GDL. What the hell is set G, you say? And set byte if greater. If flag S sign and 0 over or O overflow are the same, and flag Z is 0, sets 8-bit register DL to 1. Otherwise, to 0. So that's a fancy way of saying that if we watch this over here very closely, nothing happens because, well, they weren't both 0. One is negative. Now we're going to load the culmination of EDX plus EDX minus 1. So EDX plus EDX is going to be 0. Minus 1 is going to be F. There we go. And now it's going to move that value into EAX. It's never a good thing when you have a test followed by something that can potentially put a -1 into your register. So likely we wanted this to be passed. And we see that now we get to jump out. It's going to pop us all off and return back into here. So whatever this was doing was not likely satisfied. And now it's going to then again, like I said, anytime you have a test EAX, when that value is set to -1 is typically not a good sign. And we see that now it's going to jump us down to this portion of what looks like a loop, because this internal bar here typically denotes a loop, and we see that it in fact is. So now we're here, and of course this portion would have popped us back out. This would have brought us to where we're at, and let's see what happens from here. We're going to move into EAX's following dump memory address. This value here, of course, is going to be backwards. There you are. Push 12, clear EDX, so now it's 0, pop ECX, so that 12 transfer again, divide it out again, we started over, increment that guy, add EBP12, compare what is at the address of ESP plus 10 with EAX, so ESP plus 10 is here, which is 1, and jump it below, which it is. 1 is definitely less than that giant ass number, so we're going to go again, and let's see what we get this time when we enter into our circle of life. A happy little circle. Move EDI. Okay, that's normal stuff. Push EBP, great, cool. So now we see a 2 still, and again we're going to jump down to the bottom, and we'll hit F8. Here we go, and see what it does this time, if anything different. Toss into ESI some stuff, move into EAX, our first value, and ESI 3.8, ooh, not 3.9. Where did it get that one, you ask? Well, ESI was where it grabbed it, and that's 3.8. The one before it is not 3.9, so it pulled it right out of it somewhere. Now, legitimately, you should probably be keeping track of what these were, where they came from, because if this one was the one, and we see that that is the byte just before plus, now likely it may be plus 12. Double click here. That is not where I said to double click. Let's go above it here, because this one here. So plus 11. So the very last address here would be, we'll call it 0. We have 16, 17, convert that to hex, and you're going to get that value there. So likely this was the last one, and then here, and if we're adding 12 each time, go here, and since it's there, we need to offset by 1, and we would be, we got a calculator real quick, and we'll do this the right way. Now, we don't need scientific, and I can't see it now because it's behind that, and I have no way to move it. There we go. Cheat the system. There we go. Can you still see it? No, not at all. That's okay. You'll just have to take my word for it here. Scientific, we'll go to programmer, and decimal, hex. Move it over here. Still can't see it. Here? No. Well, that's okay. 12. And we see that in decimal, that's 18. So if one row is 16 of them, and we were here, we see that that's going to be 16 for the full row here. So we had to travel 17 to get here, 18 to get here. So we have to travel 16 to get here, 17, 18 to get here. So next time I would expect it to be 3B. So let's watch out for that. And we see now if we pop back up over here, our mathematics are going to be happening again. And we see that we have a -8. And that's going to result in the same thing as last time to happen. So let's get back to the interesting things. Back into the call. Bring it on down. And see what value we get this time. And here comes the interesting portion. 3.6. That's not what we thought it was going to be. And that's what you get for guessing. How far? Oh, 3B. So I was one byte off. 3.6. So we went from 3.9 to 3.8, 3.6. And let's just put a breakpoint here and hit run. And we see 3.5. Hit run. 3.4. Run. 3.2. Run. 3.1. Run. 4.6. Well, that's different. What is even a 4.6? That's an F. All right, so F. Starting to look a little familiar, probably. Hit run. 4.5. It's an E. E. Run. 4.2. B. Run. We're going to keep doing this until we get something different. A. Run. And now we have an 8, so 3.8 is an 8 always. Any 3 number from 3.0 to 3.9 is just numbers. Run. 3.7 is a 7. 3.6 is a 6. 3.4 is a 4. 3.3 is a 3. And there is a reason I'm doing these in pairs. 4.6 was what? F. 4.4 is a D. And this could be just a giant waste of time. You never know. Unless you want to take the time to waste the time to read through the entire thing and see exactly what it is, which there's something to learn there, but that's more than what I want to cover in this video. Today it's kind of just a collect some information, see what you can find, and see what you can accomplish. That's going to be an A. Run. 3.9 is a 9. And it almost looks like we're decoding something of some kind. 3.8. But it's strange because we're not entirely sure what's happening. But we know that it's constantly comparing that first digit with other digits. Do we ever get to a 0? Does it ever compare it with a 0? Because what we've put in is a 0. And that's when we're going to get something different. So let's run this since we already have several values for the first one, let's go ahead and run this and see if this number, oh Jesus, ever shows up as 30 or 48. So run, close, 36, 35, 34, 32, 31, 46, 45. Just going to keep looking for that 30, see if it ever happens, because it's got to end somewhere. So it's, oh, hey, look, there we are. So now we know that if we step through it with our F8, we see that now the jump is taken. And we see that now we're going to move to EAX. What's that? ECX plus 1, which is our next character, A. And we're going to move ECX, the next character, at ESI. Fall and dump, which is going to be in 8. Okay, that's good to know. And it's going to jump us back into the loop that Ollie didn't let us know we were in. That's okay. So we know that we put a 3-8 in there because we were on this chain of 3-0. So we put in a 3-8, and that might be worth noting. So that's just an 8. So we have 0, 8. We've put in an A. So let's see what happens. Hit an F8. It's going to subtract EAX from ECX. See that there's 9. Does some jumpiness. And we see that we go over all that and we return. Now if we hit run, we know that we're going to end up right back here. And we're starting over. See, we're comparing it 3-0 again. So let's get back to where it was. Yeah, I like MMX. Let's hit run. Let's take this off, hit run. I'm not sure how I got a thank you for registering. I didn't modify anything. All I did was put in 0A, BE, DE, AD, EF. Now, if that is a valid key, I would be incredibly concerned. I'm wondering if I did something else. License to, wait, what? Did I modify this? In my I may have. So let's go ahead and pull up the location for this file. Details. I think it's called stopwatch. Let's call it XNSW. Open file location. XNSW. Ah, yes. It looks as if I have modified it. So let's go ahead and close that. We'll close execution of the program. Let's call this the .bak. I was going to do a video on this where demonstrating just to bypass it, but then I decided, nah, let's go a little bit further and see if we can generate a key. So that's what happened. There we go. So let's run it. Remind me later. No. Hey, I'll remind me later because I want to get this down to small size. Not quite that small. Jeez. Okay, there we go. And let's attach before we forget. Xnote stopwatch attach. There we go. Run. Cool. It's running. Let's go into about. And free evaluation version is what we see. Let's hit register. We get prompted. Let's hit FJLJ and let's learn from our notes here. And we're going to start with 08 dash. Now let's pick some of those other randos. 65 dash 42 dash EB dash CA 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so it's not erroneous. And it is some values. We know that 08 is likely a first pair. Invalid license key. Probably this copy is outdated, so you have to re-download Xnote stopwatch at the official website. Okay, that's a different error, so it wasn't erroneous, but it does say it's invalid. That's okay. Now we just need to reestablish our breakpoints. So executable modules, the main one here. So a quick analysis. Search for names, scroll down to message box because that's what we're getting. Now if a message box was not a thing and it was like loading a dialog for it, that would be something else we would be looking at. So that's another trick that we run into quite often. Find references, unregistered copy, that wasn't it. So we'll hit F2, 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 sure. Bring this back up, hit OK, and here we are. Now that was just our beginning point, and you people in chat are incredibly quiet. That's okay, I don't blame you. Make sure everything is working still. Good, good, good. Okay. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and we want to go over that one. We don't care about it. Got it. Thank you. Pause, run, 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 run. Thank you. Get back to where we were. We want to find what calls this, I do believe, which we can do by putting a breakpoint on here and following it back. Okay. And we'll hit F7 to follow it. And that was right here. It seems you've entered an invalid key. Is over here. So how we ended up here after this call, I'm not sure. So we were here. I would have expected to come out somewhere over here, but that's okay. We're in the correct place. Now, if we recall correctly, we needed to end up here, which meant we needed to end up here, which meant that we needed to end up here, and we were monitoring, I believe it was this call here. Now I could be wrong, so I'm going to put it here. Run. Okay. Okay, and there we go. So get back into it here. We'll F8 through this, see where it's going to jump. And it's definitely not that one. So that's pulling us all the way down here. F8, call, F7, F8. Ah, interesting. Return. That's very, very interesting. We're in user 32, and next thing we see is going to be our message box, that's for sure. Although we don't see one. Okay. Okay, so we're still above it here. We want to return an F8. And we'll go ahead and do references to here. I believe that's how we got to it last time. Thank you for registering. That's going to be a big help, because that's where we want to end up. So we got to make it to here. From here, because this one goes over, yes. So we need to end up here. I do recall that. And this was it right here. There we go. And this should look very familiar. Yes, it does. Because inside here and here, is that correct? And we'll find out in a second. Let's hit run and see what we find. Boom. F7, F8, F8's all around. We're going to get our text, check the format. We know that we've made it this far in the past. Good to go. Trims, upcases, returns. Cool. That's good. Jumps over the erroneous. Cool. So it's this guy right here. F7 to follow it. Alright, we skip over the cryptid. Not sure why that's even in there. And do apologize for the tired, but that's okay. Such is life. And here we go. So now we definitely recognize all of this. and this. There we go. This was where we were seeing the interestingness. Of course, we're going to take that jump down to here. We're going to load our first byte of things, and magic is going to happen. This was the one that we were watching. We want to watch it until they match, so I'm going to put a breakpoint there, hit F9, and when 30 comes around, we'll take it from there. Aha, 30. Okay, so from here, I'll hit F8. We see that we're going to go over that and move on to our second byte, which we put in an 8. They've put in an 8. We jump, we rinse and repeat, and we see that that jumps out because they did 0 out. Now, let's hit the minus sign. Minus sign twice there. Come on. There we go. We did jump out, so that was jump F0, which they were. The next instruction would be clearing ECX, testing this, and then jumping out as well. So currently we have 0 in EAX, and that is typically a good sign. So let's follow this return and see what happens next. It's going to test EAX. It's no longer -1, so jump if not 0. So it is 0, so it's not going to take the jump. Moves to EAX, what's at this address here. Let's see what that is. Oh, there we go, CB17. And of course, it's always going to be backwards. And moves our key in as well. And EBP plus EAX, so it's adding EBP, this guy, to our EAX here. And loading it into ESI. There we go. And then it's going to move to EDI, our EBX. And what are these guys doing here? Right into the pointer at EDI. What is at the pointer of ESI? Alright, let's go ahead and follow in the dump our string source 30385D95. Okay, and let's follow and dump our string destination 3038DDA3. Okay, and we're going to see that those are going to be overwritten. And then we see, now this is using move S. Is that different? Copies double word, D word, at address ESI to the location EDI. If flag D is cleared, increment ESI and EDI by 4. Otherwise, decrement ESI and EDI by 4. So we need to watch flag D. And flag D is 0. So it was cleared. And we see that these now are going to be incremented by 4. And let's follow and dump string source. And now we see 4988220C. Okay. Follow and dump destination 4085ED93. Okay, and we see the D is still cleared, so it's going to increment those again. Source, destination, and still cleared. Let's check out the source again, 36BF, okay. And now it is going to do just the word. So half of it. And let's go to search for follow and dump string source. I don't know how to read whatever language that is, but thank you. Yes. And then we see that there is a call to a function of some kind. So the last thing we had here was what was at the address of EDI. So let's follow that in the dump here. And we see that amongst all of that, we have written some things. So I'm going to just let that run, and we see all of this gobbledygook has just popped up into our XMM register, or our extended instruction set register. And yeah, well, let's go ahead and see what happens here, because now we're moving into EDI, a pre-programmed constant, which points to where we were at. And let's go ahead and step forward into it here, see what this guy does. And typically what I like to do is run into the next portion that says, hey, it doesn't work. So we may end up just doing that. So let's go ahead and hit F8, come through all of this, and we see that a lot of things are happening. But do we need to pay attention to any of it? Equals T. Now the values that we put in are most likely very much different. So let me go back a ways here. Gotta love that minus sign. Here we go. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here and hit F9. And we are now going to be comparing what is at the address with this value. So let's follow in them. Dump the memory address, and we see that it is in fact not that, and we would be jumping if it's equal. So let's see, it's not going to be jumping. Is that good or bad? We're not sure, because if we were to jump, we would be moving EAX, EBX, and then jumping over clearing EAX. So depending on whether or not we need EAX to have a value or be 0 would determine whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. So right now it's not, and it looks like we're in a loop. So it's going to be doing this for a while. And it looks like now we've made it through our first iteration, and likely is going to be putting us right back on up here to then go through and check the next set. Likely. There we go. And here we go. So let's hit F7, follow that in, see what it does to us this time. And we see that we are starting over. So multiple paths here are being taken, and each time it is starting us over. And we're getting a little bit further each time. So the first octet is being handled. And let's go back, because this is what inevitably put us back into that call there. So we want to breakpoint here, hit run, and here we are. And follow it a little more closely this time. Watch what's happening. So we come back up. Moves to EAX, this address, follow and dump. That's 39. To add EAX EBP. EBP is the division result last time. So let's follow this and dump. We see that's a 38. And then it's going to put in our key and call us back into here. So we likely missed something a little bit earlier, which would have been in this guy here, or this guy here more likely. Let's run that, and of course we aren't going to be hitting these yet. We don't want that because we know that 0, 0 takes a while to hit, and now we've hit it, and we're on a different chain. That's okay. So let's find out what's happening in here. So So we'll actually follow this through, F7, and see what happens. So subtractions are happening. Following dump, OE. Okay. Move EAX, what is at this pointer? Following dump the memory address 2D. And it's going to move the whole thing in there backwards. And that's not something we can follow. But it does look rather conspicuous. 3C, 3C, 4D, 2D. Alright, we'll remember that. And now it's going to do an XOR with that value and our EBP, which is here. And we get 3C, 93, A6, D5. Hey, what's up? Rather boring at this point, doing some digging, seeing what we can learn. And this program, believe it or not, has a pretty in-depth registration process. By in-depth, I mean rather lengthy for, well, what it is. I've seen less secure things in, like, games. Alright, let's see what this guy down here is doing, because this looks rather interesting as well. Immediate constant, that's some zeros, so we're clearing out some memory. Immediate constant, what are you doing up at this hour anyways? E2, 3, 4, now F7s. Alright, writing is happening, I'm not sure if you saw that. Okay, that one looks interesting. It's very much not interesting, unless of course this jump is taken, and then it's incredibly interesting. So let's see if that jump gets taken or not. And it definitely is always going to, because what else would change it? And here we go. Move ECXR key. Test ECX against 0.3. So literally checking. Fishing on WoW. Gonna hit the bed soon though. Who fishes on WoW? Like, isn't that little color bot still a thing? Hiding out in instances. Jump is not taken. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Let's see here. ECX. Okay, we're going up to the next one. And we ended it with 3. And let's see what 3 is. I can fish a mount. I want it. Then, again, why are you manually fishing mounts? 70 FE, FE, FF. Alright, interesting. Move EAX. What is here? Memory address. Hey, look at that. It's going to grab the next portion of our key and toss its values in here, which we see correlates appropriately as 2D, 3536, 2D. Hey, I'm having trouble with getting around anti-debugging stuff. Can you showcase that as well? Yes, I definitely can. And tell you what, let's finish up getting to a milestone of the next portion of the key here, and we'll take this program a little key segment at a time, because it looks like there's a separate algorithm and kind of what looks like a lookup table based off of your first letter. The second needs to match for each octet, and if anywhere along the line, it spits it back out. Pretty clever, actually. If I'm wrong, then hey, still more clever. And then we'll take a quick break and we'll look at some anti-debugging measures. I actually have a program that will line up with that perfectly. So that being said, let's power through the rest of this real quick to confirm that we found a location that's working on that second octet of numbers, and we'll go from there. Never bought it on WoW, gonna keep it that way. I always enjoyed fishing anyways. I agree. Many hours sitting in the caverns, just fishing. Nobody could get to me because I was in my own instance. What are those, deviate fish or something like that? Yeah, you make deviate delights. They sold for good money. Anyhow, whaling caverns. Man, you're gonna make me go back to playing WoW, aren't you? Aren't you? Okay, add EDX EAX F7. So we added that value that we pushed into EDX with the value of our key. Now what are we going to do with this? XOR EAX FFFFFF XOR EAX EDX. Okay. D2ACA. Okay. CE. Okay. And it's going to move what's at the address of ECX to EDX. Yeah, we've done this once already. Add ECX4, and it's moving it up to all the way up to the third chunk of our code. Test EAX with 81010100. So we see that we are at 7EFFF, and the last operation on EAX was an XOR with EDX, and EDX was an addition between EDX and our key, and EDX was loaded with this. So we can mathematically figure this out, that we know that we start with 7E, FE, FFE, and we see that we got this value here, which is not much different. We are adding together R's to it, and then we're XORing against F's, which is going to remove the originals, and then we are XORing the two together, and we need to know what values for all of those that we are going to need to have in order to have that value, if that's the value we need to satisfy this whole solution here. Thanks. Are you going to record this all and upload a video eating lunch while watching this? Woohoo! I wish I was eating lunch. It's 2 in the morning. Yes, so at the break I will momentarily stop streaming, so this chunk will be its own video. Change the title real quick, set up a timer, take my break. We'll resume about 10 minutes after that, so I'll hit start. You'll see the timer. When it comes back, that will be its own separate video, automatically uploading, and that's how I'm going to manage this, because I don't edit. It takes too much damn time. People either watch it live or they'll fast forward the video. Editing's a waste of time. Okay, so through the power of math, we can get this value if need be, or we could always just hard code all of these functions and be like, hey, yes, it's good, pass it forward, which would be the easiest way out of this. Now, patching is always easier than actually understanding code, so it kind of depends on what you're trying to learn. So let's hit F8, and this, of course, is going to jump back up and start over with the next octet, and then it resets. EX puts it in there, and we see that that is now 45 2D 3234. It's 2:40 in the morning. You're eating lunch at 2:40 in the morning. Must oh, huh? I mean, eating lunch. I'm confused, but that's okay. It happens all the time. Add EDX EAX again. Values are happening. Do an XOR. Bad. Oh, okay, that's cool. I couldn't have planned that better. Bad DECB. XOR EDX. We see that we are now down a little bit lower. It's going to add 4. Move us forward. Test it. Jump again. Rinse and repeat. All of the bot players out there, or not bot players, but WoW players out there. Okay, next section. Rinse and repeat. I don't know. I remember that phrase being used somewhere in rating or bosses or something. We see that we're going to jump right back in, and all of those values are still chugging away. And this time we're not going to jump because we're out of digits. You're going to be doing more of these. They were pretty successful back in the day. Yeah, actually I'm going to do a bit more. Tonight was kind of just a wing it, like, hey, here's a program that I happen to be loading up and I noticed a register box. Let's take a look at its registration and see what we can find. In the future, it'll be more like planned things, like Life and Gaming has asked there, hey, anti-debugging. So instantly I think of a program that has lots of anti-debugging in it. I happen to write it myself, and we can go over some of those things and then kind of let the viewers dictate what's going to be next. It's the easiest way to come up with what to cover and what people would like to see. But yeah, I plan on doing a bit more. So we checked the last digit of DL, which was 0, after doing all of this crap on it. So the add EDX, EAX, what was the last function? We loaded the ECX. Okay, so the null character. Got it. And that's going to bring us back out. So we know that what happened if we were to back up, there we go, that this continued to go through here. And then depending on this, it's either going to go out, out, or to here, or to here. And likely this is the good place that we want to be, because anytime you have split returns, likely this is deciding where we're going to be going. And if we end up here, it's going to do the whole damn thing over again until one of these brings us out. Kind of like a manual selection. So F8, we're going to grab our return. We see our original key is in there. Pop back out, and we see that it pushes it and then directly right back into something else. So we know that we are in fact looking further than the first, and we see that this is called from all over the damn world. And the quickest way to see what's happening is to button mash, and we see that this is the same function as last time. So again, we're going to go around the world, and then this one, what did we just put on the stack? Argument 1 was some random offset, follow and dump, immediate constant, follow and dump, immediate constant. Okay, these are stack addresses that we're looking at, so whether or not those are actually hard-coded or if we generated those along the way is to be determined. But inside here is definitely going to be where a lot more magic is happening. And this, anytime you see stuff like this, that's gonna be special. Trust me, that's gonna be involved later. Definitely later. So far what we're seeing is that there was quite a bit of time going into securing this with an offline solution that would allow for keys to be dictated and changed throughout updates with just rolling a bit or something like that to suddenly invalidate or differentiate between versions without having to rewrite the whole code or require people to be online to verify that they have botnet. So let's F8 past this guy real quick and see what we get. And I hit F9, but hey, that's okay. And we see here that we're going to be comparing a hard-coded value with a stored value. If we follow that in the dump here, those are definitely not going to be equal. And we would only be jumping if they were equal. So whether or not that would be good or bad, we still don't know. It would definitely be good because it would not be clearing that. So what I'm going to do real quick is flip the 0-bit. Just double click it. That's going to bring us out here. Let's go ahead and now hit F8. It's going to jump us out. It's going to move into EAX, our EBX value, which Lord only knows what that's supposed to be, but hey, we're throwing something in it, aren't we? 3038B9. That's definitely not a key. Oops, there we go. But potentially that could be what we were looking for, at least a part of it. We never know. Now, this jump is going to not clear out EAX. It's going to then clean up the stack, bring us back to here, clean up the stack some more, test EAX. We see that EAX is not 0, so it's going to jump over the invalid license key because, well, we told it that it was going to be needing to do so by flipping that 0 bit. And we see that now we're going to get a thank you for registering. So definitely, if I ran into a program at this type of annoyance and didn't want to spend the extra time to make a proper keygen, then there you have it. All of a sudden, we can hit pause, hit run, hit OK. And if we were to go into about, it's going to say registered to FJLJ. Now, of course, that's not going to be a permanent solution. As soon as we hit close, if we were to close and restart the program, it's going to tell us it's not registered. Try before you buy. Perfect. And if we hit register now, of course, nothing. So if we hit remind me later, go to about, it wasn't properly registered, and it definitely knows that. So if you were to patch it, you would have to patch it every time, or a permanent patch solution and save it. But we will continue down the rabbit hole of seeing exactly what's generating that. And in the case of it being a giant table lookup, that's super annoying. So we'll have to follow it a bit further. We may actually do a static debugging with IDA to really determine whether or not that is the case, because it's going to break it out into trees, show us exactly where everything's going, and we'll be able to feed it some information as well, and apply some scripting to it, and go from there. And with any luck, we'd be able to actually just write a Python script within IDA to just grab all of the useful information, pull it out, and that way we don't have to do it manually. So that might be the proper route that we continue on with this one. That being said, real quick, I do want to hit restart. And on that beginning message, let's hit run right here. I want to hit pause and debug, return, execute tell user code. And I want to pull it back up and click remind me later. Now, this loaded that dialog box. We know that that happens quite often, and that came from here, which we jumped to from here. Now, this was landed on, and the only way to get here without going there is by jumping from way up here. The only way to get there is from here if we didn't jump here, which means we came from way up here, following the black line, follow the black brick line, and we see that that is the result of this from a compare here. So if we hit breakpoint right there and restart, this likely isn't going to give me what I want. So before we do that, I'm going to hit, there we go, here we are, and I'm going to do Control F9 and probably, oh hey, we didn't run into some weird NVIDIA pop-up like we do with Alt F9. No, thank you. Alright, and we see that it's a return 10, so it's going to clear off a bit of the stack when it returns, and we want to see where that's at, so let's hit F8. There we go. And so that originated within user 32, and let's go ahead and hit run and stop, restart, and run. We see that there's a compare here, and we know that if this guy were taken, that we would end up here. However, that doesn't mean that's the only way we can end up there, because we see that it's not being taken. And let's go ahead and come back down to that dialog load. I believe it was right. Where's that? Here. Yes. So we want to end up here to go over that, which means we want to end up here, or anywhere that, you know, this is going over that. So if we're here, we want to know how we got there, and we want to know why we're not taking this jump. Or we do want to end up there, so we don't want to end up here. Now if we do end up here, we have a couple options, but we want to see how we end up here. So that is from this jump here. Click it and cancel. Let's follow it up. This guy right here. So we don't want to end up there. We want to end up above it. So we don't want to take this jump right here. Here we go. There we go. And let's hit run. Compare ECX-E8X F8. Aren't there plugins to make this easier? Looks tedious. The whole world is tedious, especially when you don't have any insight on it. There are some plugins that can help track things down. We'll go over some of those in the future. However, I lost most of my good plugins. Right now, the whole damn thing is grayed out. That being said, really the best way to learn is to go through it manually a few hundred times, because then things become apparent. You get a flow as to how you want to do it and what's kind of being asked. So let's go ahead and hit unbreakpoint this guy up here. Where the hell was I? Hit F9 and we saw our main screen load, I believe. Yep. So that's okay. And now sub is going to help on command. It will set a flag according to the result. So it subtracts immediate constant 8001 from the contents of ECX. So at this point right here, we want to make sure that jump if 0 is not. So the easiest way to do that, throw this off by a value and see what happens now. So let's go ahead and hit F8. We see it's not going to take, and we'll see what happens with all of these now by throwing it off by 1. Which is likely not going to be beneficial to us, but that's okay. Well, we jumped over it. Let's hit run, and we see we don't get that annoying register box. So if we wanted to just not have that box, we could just save that change right there. And let's see what happens if we go to the about and free evaluation version. So we see that that would just remove the box, and then if we wanted to make sure that it was automatically registered, we could always patch those things. And honestly, in a program that's as annoying as this, patching would likely be the solution that most people would be jumping down the hoop for. However, we will either continue this a little bit further down the rabbit hole of the key. We may come back to it, but we'll see where the road takes us. The next request is anti-debugging steps and features, things that people implement. And that being said, in the middle of that video, as we're traveling down that, we will also see what other questions arise and point us in that in whatever other way that we would like to see. So I'm going to take a quick break, then I'll come back with a program that goes over lots of anti-debugging tricks, and we will address those as well. In my opinion, the best way to learn reverse engineering, and how did I start learning? The best way to learn is to be patient, have persistence, and when you get frustrated, take a break, come back, stare at it, look at it line by line, and that's how you're going to learn and retain, by actually doing. If something is too hard, find something that is not as hard and see what it gives you. If it doesn't give you anything, if you don't learn anything from it, it wasn't hard enough. If you learned a little bit, then find something equal, keep stepping up. I started when I was about, let's see here, 15 or 16 was when I really got into reverse engineering, and I started by reverse engineering AOL Instant Messenger with a friend of mine and finding various holes in it, resulting in buffer overflows, which at the time was a brand new concept to me. The entire Ollie everything was brand new, and eventually we did find a few holes in there, discovered a couple different errors of sending specific strings that exactly, get your hands dirty is the best way to learn. That, and nowadays, I know there's not a whole lot of good videos out there that aren't just music and how-tos that are a bunch of BS, or want you to download this, that, or the other thing and virusize your computer. So yeah, really hands-on is how I did it, and line by line. But I will tell you that once you understand the concepts that are needed to understand the logic at the lowest level, you can literally take that and apply it to any other language and understand what's happening at that level, so that when you're writing higher level languages, you would know what to expect and how to circumvent problems. A lot of the most secure things that you see out there are going to be implemented at a low level within a high level language, and then have tricks to throw people off. Yeah. Some of the things you see at the low level are crazy. A lot of times you'll see little notes like, hey, if you're looking at this, I know you're in here. Things, Easter eggs that normal people would never see. Those are always fun to come by. That being said, let me go ahead and fire up my evaluation version of the stopwatch here, and we will take a quick break. Yep, definitely break time, getting hungry. And then we'll load up some anti-debugging. So let me get that started with the stopwatch. There we go. It's like I already had it. Remind me later, please. Timer. I'm gonna set 15 minutes. And count up if I am late. So there you go, 15 minutes in a second. This is low level. By low level, I mean languages. So assembly is binary code. It's opcodes communicating directly with the CPU, the registers, the memory, the stack. Low level programming. This I would not recommend to a beginner ever. Based off of what we've seen in that code, this isn't something that would be simple if you wanted to actually figure out exactly what it was calculating, exactly what it was comparing. It's more of an intermediate, because it's going to take a lot of time or analysis or scripting analysis to do so. To do it manually, as you can see, we've been on it I think over an hour now, and we got to the second digit. Now, if you wanted to pop in and patch it, this is one that definitely a beginner would be able to go, oh, patch here, oh, patch there, I'm good. So patching versus understanding and making a keygen, completely different worlds, controversial worlds. Really, at the end of the day, if it gets the job done, if that's your whole point, it's not. You got to look at your values. Is it ethical? Are you doing it just to do it, to say you did it? Are you learning anything from it? If not, I encourage you to actually dig into it, figure out how it's working, so that you can take those implementations and apply them in your own software going forward. Or if you find something that's just super easy and you want to help out the author, be like, hey, I was able to do this. Here's some things you can put in place to help that. Okay, so I will be right back. Let me shrink this down, not quite that small. And we will look at some anti-debugging measures. Alright, see you in a minute. Quick break, followed by anti-debugging. See you soon. 40 seconds. 39, 38. We're starting now. Close. Okay, so our friend, morning. What are we reversing? So yes, our friend Life in Gaming had a question of, could we go over anti-debugging and things of the sort? So that is exactly what we're going to be doing now. And okay, not sure what happened there, but definitely lost connection for a moment. We're back now. Not entirely sure what all you lost, but I've cleaned up screen, and I was just saying that our friend Life in Gaming was letting us know that he would like to see some anti-debugging measures and how to address those. So that's what we're going to do now. I have a program here that I wrote a while back. Let me go ahead and pull it up right quick. Here we are. So this is a crack me that I wrote several years ago. Yeah, back in 2013. I was up on crackmes.de before they went poof, and nobody ever found a solution for it. So whether it was well written or not, I don't know, but hey. First things first, it says you need to register to continue, okay? And it says name, alright, FJLJ. Pass some stuff. Wrong. Okay, now the interesting portion of this is not that. The interesting portion is that if we try to open it directly, let me go ahead and pull this up. Grr. There we go. And we try to run it. Let's see what happens. We see that we have a terminate, and so far we have, oh, everything just bricked itself. Nothing happened. It's not, you know, it says it's running, but Ollie is very, very confused. It doesn't know if the program is running, doesn't know what it needs to do with itself, and it is lost. So definitely anti-debugging measures have been put here. It's trying to pause now so it can terminate, and it is severely locked up. You can't see it, but up here it's now not responding. We can still move it around, can't pause it, can't break it. So that being said, let's see if we can find in here the crack me running at all. If it is, we can kill it. If it's not, we'll have to kill Ollie. So it has gone ahead and just completely broke itself. So let's go ahead and kill Ollie and get that fired back up here. Hopefully the stream will grab it appropriately, and it did. Perfect. So we know that we can't run it directly, so let's try attaching to it. How about that? So we start the program first, make it fit on screen, and let's try attaching to it. Attach. FGLJ, that's not it. Where are we at? Solution. I was looking up all my old stuff. Is that it? Yes, there we go. Alright, so let's attach to it. And go to view, oops, no. View executable modules. We're going to go ahead and pop into FGLG crackme 4. And from there, we see that we still have our prompt. Everything is still going. And we are in like Flynn. Now let's do a quick search for names and see if we find anything of use. We see a puts, a printf, and a scanf. Those are likely going to be useful. So we also see set unhandled exception filter. Okay, fine. Something to remember is that quite often in non-orthodox programming measures, set unhandled exception filter may be used to confuse a debugger. So let's look at our puts, see if there's any references. Please register to continue. Right, wrong. Well, those look interesting. Let's go to right. And we see here that we have, looks like a function of some kind. Looks like our prompt. This is another trick that you run into in anti-debugging. We don't know whether this is ever used or not. Typically, in here, you're going to have some sort of reference that's going to say, yeah, this is being called from somewhere. But if we look for references, we don't have any to this. So it could be dummy code, and then we see a bunch of jumps. Help me, I'm lost. What? Okay, like Easter eggs. And then we also see wrong down here, which jumps to, okay, so it's outside of the right. That looks legit. And then it jumps back up to here for the pause before potentially leaving. Now, whether or not we know that to be true or not, we still don't know. We do see something going on here that's rather interesting. And there's a call, which register classes. Initially, you might think something Java. No. Get proc address. What? Okay. We're not sure about that yet. Oh, what's this? We're not sure what that is either. Now, one thing that I always take a look at in programming things is if it's a console application, I want to know where it started. Where does the actual code start? And a good indicator for that, depending on what it was compiled with, something to remember is if you go to the top and you just start looking for things like cexit or exit process. So if you go to search for names and you find exit process or cexit, go ahead and double click that. And you'll see that it takes us to the function within MSVCRT. Not exactly what we were looking for. We want to know if there's references to it. So let's go to search for names, cexit. Is there a reference to it? There is one, and a lookup table, which the call is actually using the lookup table. All right, so we see that that's right here. And if you run into that, you'll typically always find that there's a call directly above it. And another thing to look for is this environment. So that's going to be loading environment variables, setting everything up to run on the system. And then this call is typically always going to go to the beginning of the actual code. And so here we are, the actual code. And if we try to analyze with Ollie, it doesn't detect much anything. So we run into this whole thing of, Ollie's going to think it's corrupt. It's not going to know exactly what's going on. We're just going to say okay and don't display this in the future because we know that it's messed up. That being said, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to load into ECX the stack pointer plus 4. And so the stack pointer is currently at this address here, and plus 4 is going to be this guy here at 8C is what's in there. So let's go ahead and hit F9, and we should end up on our breakpoint. If we were to start this program from the beginning. However, since we attached to it, we're not at the beginning. So let's restart now that we have a breakpoint. It's still active, yeah, we know. So hit yes, and we may need to remember that address because now it's trying to close it. It closed it, but it's having a hard time running it, and poof, it never got to where we wanted it to get to. So let's kill Ollie. Let's kill Ollie. Come on, die. Whoa. There we go. Let's load it back up. And let's go ahead and run our program. Shrink it down to the right size, get it on screen, and attach to it. And what we're going to do is actually kind of your channel to find it, go to video manager, analyze. Watching. Okay, so I believe we're back. Not sure why we lost the stream. Something very strange is happening. I don't show any drop frames, but we do continue to get disconnected, and that is rather annoying. So yes, let's continue on. So Ollie is attempting to attach, and it done goofed again. So we may need to try to move a little bit forward with it. I'm not sure why it died on us that time. It definitely shouldn't have. Let's close the program, cancel all. Come on. Come on. Good to go. Still got stream. Let's load this. And let's go ahead and attach. Now that it's not selected over there, I think that may have been the issue, or maybe we need to select it. Okay, either way, let's go into View Executable Modules, bring it up, search for names, and go to See Exit, find References. Here we are. Let's pull that up and go to here, and we know that our code is starting here. Now, if we follow that down line by line, we would see that it's going to be putting into ECX ESP+4, ANDing it with this value, pushing there, and let's see if we can. So it can't set the current reference there because it's trying to pause and it's not able to. So let's try and type something in, and it's still trying to pause anywhere they can find a pause, but it's having a hard time because it's operating within the unhandled exception. So Ollie is going to crap itself. So what we need to do is open it but not run it. So let's see if we can do that. Stop it. Ollie, stop it. See, anti-debugging. It can be a hassle. There's actually anti-disassembly and anti-debugging, two different things. However, they can both be very annoying, and Ollie is very confused right now. Let's see if we can get it to load properly. There we go. Get it off. There we go. So file, let's go to options. Let's go to start, and we want to we know that WinMain, if it's known, is where it's going to try to pause. And let's tell it system breakpoint and see if that gets anything different. Events, warn on frequent events, no. Pause on new module, no, that's fine. Don't care. Exceptions, we're telling it to ignore all of them. And that's okay. Let's see if the system gives us anything different. Let's go open this guy, and we're not going to tell it to run. So it broke somewhere. It hasn't confused the hell out of itself yet. Let's come into here, scroll up. We'll see exit is right there. We'll go into here, and we have our breakpoint. Let's see if it actually breaks there, and it does. So now we have some progress. Now we can step through it from the beginning of the code here and see what it's doing. So it's moved the stack pointer +4, so this address here, the next one. And it's going to AND that with that, so we get FF10. So now we've moved our stack pointer up because it originally was here. and we've moved it up to here. And then we're going to push the dword value that is at ECX minus 4. ECX is currently holding our value that we loaded into it, which is plus 4, and we're pushing a 1. My math was way wrong, so it was here. Sorry. Okay, so we've pushed, oh, right, ECX minus 4. So ECX was here, and so what it did was get our entry point, essentially, which could be debatable as helpful or not. And then we see that we're going to push EBP, move EBP ESP, so we're setting up our own stack frame again here. Push EDI, push ESI, EBX, ECX, and then it's going to subtract 1B8 from ESP. So ESP is here, and moving up to 1B8 is going to put us way up here. And there we go. So now we've gone way up from where we originally started, and we see that we're going to call this location, which is 401B48. The way a call works is distance from my current location. So if we were to look at DCFC FFFF, we know that we would be moving this far. So if we hit F7, because we see that it's not your typical call, we hit F7, we see that we're now pushing EBP, moving EBP ESP. Okay, we're making a new stack frame, subtracting ESP 8, moving up, and we're going to move into ECX, the pointer that is at the location 504064. And if we follow that in dump, we see that it is that original 1. And we see that ECX becomes a 1. We test ECX, and we would jump if it is not equal. And this right here is essentially tricking the compiler, or the, I did write this, let's see, tricking the compiler into thinking that this was a legit if statement. However, there's no way that it would ever not happen. So by doing so, instead of ever hitting this, we're going to be using a leave to clear up our stack and return to where we were called from. However, let's hit F7. Now we see that we are going to load into ESP what is at an offset, and that is stored the value of NTDLL. We're going to get the open a handle to it. Okay, I hit F7, meant to hit F8, so that's annoying. We're going to hit here and hit F9, so we come out of it and come back. Alright, so F8, we see that now we have a handle. We're going to push that location for our module that we're wanting to get back. We're saying, hey, get the address for NT set information thread, and then we're going to put onto the top of the stack here. So we're loading these old school style backwards instead of bottom to top. We're saying push this one on there, move this one to the next value, move this one to that value. So instead of adding space to the stack, we're utilizing the exact addresses on the stack. So that's going to put it at the top there, and now they're in the right order to say, hey, look inside the module NTDLL and return the address for NT set information thread, please. It's going to do that. It's going to be an EAX, and then we're going to subtract 8 from ESP, move us up, and it's going to move EBP or EBX EAX. So we're storing the address of that call, or that function, if you want to call it that. and that is going to then make a call to get current thread, which is going to most likely result in, well, -2 is the return value we got. We'd have to look that up and see what it is. Most likely this is just an attempt to confuse the debugger or allow us to move into the next segment here. So the next thing we see is we're moving into ESP plus OC 0. And we see that that happens, as well as 08 happens. 4 cleared, and then we're going to move it to the top of the stack, our EAX value, which is -2. And then we're saying call EBX. So now we are effectively calling NT set information with the arguments of -2, depending on how many parameters it takes. Now it doesn't detect this as a function because it has no way to reference it, because we're calling it directly from the register. So when we attempt to run this, most likely it's going to throw a massive fit. So I'm going to hit F8, and we see that the whole thing crashes. So we know that we could hit debug, but that wouldn't give us the results we're looking for right now. So we're going to restart, run, come down to here where this is happening, and instead of doing any of that, we're going to, because we see there's also a is debugger present, jump if equal over here, otherwise return. So the first thing we want to do is let it load everything in, but when we get down to this call EBX, let's just move our execution point to here. So new origin here, and clear EAX, move into ESP, our adjusted stack pointer, pop ECX, pop EBX, pop ESI, pop EDI, pop EBP, and move into ESP ECX -4. We see that we've now repaired our stack pointer. We're going to do a return to this location. If we click enter on that, we see that that is going to exit our program. So what is happening? Well, this is where it gets interesting, because what we want to look at is the names. And if you recall correctly, set unhandled exception filter can be a thing. So we see there's a couple of references to it here, and we see that one is up here, and this could be a decoy, and we see one that is here, and this is right at the very beginning of the program, before that C exit and everything that we were already in. So this is already ran. So we would need to look at this right here. So let's run this from the very beginning and go from there. So let's rewind, yes, and view executable modules here. And we know that we want to make sure that we encompass, I'm hitting F2 to set breakpoints and then down arrow, all of this because it looks rather silly to us, and that's going to likely give us some different results. So let's go ahead and hit run now, and we see that in fact we do end up here. So at some point we ended up here, and we see that there is a reference to here, a couple of them, one being here and the other one being here. So directly after each other. And this guy is referenced from, we don't know. It won't let us see that information. So let's step through the beginning of the program here and see what happens. So it's going to move into EAX some stuff, which TLS callback 1. Let's follow that in disassembler. We see that that is this point here. Alright, that's interesting. So let's go ahead and hit F8 one more time. And we are testing to make sure it's non-zero. If it was 0, we'd be jumping over here to set exception, set unhandled exception filter. Now since it's not 0, we're not going to be jumping, and it's going to move into local 12.0, and that's here, 2, 0, and it's going to call EAX. Now, what exactly that's going to do is it's going to put us down here, and I'm going to hit F8 on it and see if it does anything successfully or not. Okay, and it did something and it returned a 1. No problem. So now it's going to subtract from ESP OC, moves us back up to where we were. So it negated any stack changes that we already did. And now we see that we're moving to the top of the stack, this 40111110. Let's keep that in mind here. And we see that there's no follow in disassembler. We can follow it in dump, the immediate constant. However, let's just make a notepad mental note of that 401110, because it will likely be very useful to us. Let me just put this over like that. 401110, because the next call is set unhandled exception filter that. Okay, and then we see that we're pushing a 0 to the stack and then calling this. Now, likely if we hit F8, well, we'll see what happens, but we see some interesting things like CPU ID. Okay, and let's hit minus real quick and see what happens after that runs. Okay, so we see that we have a value in EAX, we have a value in ECX, alright, and then we have another call directly after it, which is saying to call right here. So let's follow that one with an F7, and push the EBP, move EBP ESP, okay, F init, okay, so floating point, leave, return, and it returns us right here. Okay, fine. The very next thing is setting up the program. Okay, no problem. So now we see we have an unhandled exception filter. It's been set up, and we know that this is going to result in an exception happening. As soon as we get into here, this code does nothing except cause an exception. And as soon as that exception happens, the unhandled exception filter is when our program is actually going to start at this address. So what we can do is rewind, skip all that, go to expression, paste, follow expression, and here we have it. We see our unhandled exception filter would land us here. So let's see about setting our origin here. New origin here, F8, 88888, and it all errors out and dies. So instead of, here's our rewind. We know that if we were to run it, we're going to be here. Now we don't want to set this unhandled exception filter. However, in here, all of this seems very strange. And somewhere along the line, we do need to figure out if we're where and if we're writing to the screen, all of those things. And of course, if we were to search for names and be like printf, I believe was in here, printf and puts. So let's find references to all of those, breakpoint them all, and see if they ever get hit, because it's likely that they never do. That was the button I wanted to press. Search for names, references. Okay, we have lots of these. And let's hit run several times here. See if any of those ever happen, because it's likely that they don't, even after we hit run. So at that point, Ollie gets really confused. And of course, we've been here before, it crashes Ollie. So in this line of anti-debugging, we realize that a lot has been put into place to make sure that the whole debugging scene is rather hard. So if we were to relaunch Ollie one more time here, we'll go over it and see what we need to do to circumvent that. There we go. So let's rewind and hit run. We should still have our breakpoint. Cool, we do. And we want to make sure that we set everything up, and we know that this is going to be interesting. So, and the weird thing is, you know, if you run it normally, it runs just fine. There's no problem to be had. It's running. So the set unhandled exception filter here seems like it is definitely a strange piece. So we'll allow it to go. And now let's see what this is doing. Let's F7 in, and we see all sorts of things happening with our registers. And there's some testing, some CPU ID stuff running again and again. 1, 2, 4, 8, 10, 20, 40, okay, cascading ifs. We jump out, back in, and then we have a return finally. Now, what exactly was happening, we're not entirely sure. There could be something very strange going on. But one thing's for sure, finit. What is finit? Initializes floating point unit. This includes the following steps. FPU control word is set to 37F, round to the nearest 64-bit precision. All exceptions are masked. FPU status word is set to 0. All registers are tagged as empty, but their contents remain unchanged. Instructions and data pointers are cleared. FPU flags C3, C2, C1, C0 are set to 0. So likely it's being used to clear stuff and reset flags. So at some point we're going to end up there. And let's go ahead and come back here, because we know that the very next call is going to put us there. And if we watch all of our flags, those don't change. But if we were in FPU, we see that these are all, so 37F, precision near 60, and all of these are masked. So then we leave, return, and then things continue from there. Gets the main arguments, the program, sets up the whole program, sets up the environment, and we know that something in here needs to be skipped. So let's hit F7 and see what we need to do, because we know that likely all of this we know is just creating an exception. So let's try to bypass that. We'll F8 through all the loading. We'll let it have its fun. We'll get down to here, but before this portion and the isDebugger present, we're going to go ahead and instead of going to here, test EAX jump of equal, we know that there's going to be a return. A return would likely be not too good. However, we're not sure if the return is actually going to take us where we're wanting to go, or if that return is actually being used as a jump. So we know that this is bad. We're definitely going to skip that. So let's go ahead and new origin here and let the isDebugger present run. Okay, we see 1 test EAX jump if it's equal. So if it was 0, it would jump to here. However, it's not 0, so we know that this is in fact going to clear it up and kill us, because it's detected the debugger. It's one of the simplest tricks in the books is the isDebugger present, And so we know that we can just set new origin here. We don't want to return the program, and we're going to continue on. Load into EAX, EVP minus 141. Follow in the stack. Okay, interesting. Move into EVP minus 1AC EAX. Excuse me. Move EDI EAX. Okay. Move EDX 20. Okay. XOR EDX. Okay. Test EDI with 1. And it does not equal, so this is all going to go way down here. That, jump back up to way up here. Okay. And looks like it may be unpacking itself. Interesting. So throughout this whole thing, we get to see some Easter eggs, and eventually we will end up somewhere. Please register, move some stuff, J and E. Eventually we'll get to a portion where we'll see normal execution and know that we have circumvented all anti-debugging and anti-disassembly by using our brains, looking up different commands, what they did, what they were doing to modify the code or prevent us from viewing the code, and different ways of analyzing it. So this is a program you couldn't just load and run. You couldn't do the default breaking on win main, because it's beyond that point where it would already confuse itself and crash. And this is also a program where static disassembly would be very helpful. Now, the trick to this part we're doing right now is it is in fact unpacking itself. And if we go too fast, the obfuscation of it would put us in an area we definitely don't want to be at. Now we see we come up on another Easter egg. I wish I was good at reverse engineering. Definitely a projection there onto whoever would be here, because I'm definitely not good at it at all. The key to being good at it is learning and being open to mistakes and learning. That being said, never give up. And we see that now we're loading in a bunch of different strings: pause, right, wrong, %s, %s, colon, and I wish I was good at reverse engineering. And then we have a call to here. And we see here that we have a new set unhandled exception filter. And did we miss something? Do we need to skip over it? Let's do a quick analysis. Didn't change anything. Let's follow this call and see what happens. So it resets our stack for us. How nice of you. Puts a return on there for us. And it's going to move 4014FC, set the unhandled exception filter to 4014FC, and then it's going to get current process ID, test EAX, do some stuff, likely cause an exception, but we'll find out. So that is not 0, so it's not going to jump over to here to print yeah right. So that was just a decoy. Likely this would never ever fail, so it's just there to leave this code in, because if a compiler detects that code is not reachable, it will just optimize it out. It won't leave it in. So if you want to put an Easter egg in there that's never going to get ran, you need to have a way to trick it into leaving in there. You need to have a way for it to not be able to predict what the result's going to be. Hey, will you be having vid of this? I need to rewatch it to get it into my head. Very interesting. Yeah, so after this, I guess my break, I didn't stop the stream long enough for it to upload it separately, because it's showing the elapsed time at 3 hours for the whole thing. So sorry, didn't leave a long enough break in between for it to go, oh, this is a new one. So it's all going to be in one, most likely. If it's not, I am saving it locally and I'll chop it up and upload it manually. And we'll go over a lot more in the future of other anti-debugging, anti-disassembly as well. This was kind of an overview of like a culmination of like 5 different tricks all in one crack me before we even start attempting to reverse engineer the actual crack me itself. Probably why it sat for 4 years without a solution. And it was only labeled as a like 3 difficulty or something. I set it higher. They said, no, this isn't that hard. And I was like, you obviously didn't look at it, but okay. Yeah. So, yeah, back to what I was saying. You have to have a way to trick the compiler into thinking that there is a possibility that that code will be reached, so it will leave it in there. And one way to do that is by telling it, get the process ID and test to see if it's something else, because it doesn't have a way to know if that's going to be always the same answer or not. So it won't optimize it out. And the other optimizations lend you with things like that big old packing function there. Anyways, so that jump's not going to happen. We're going to then move to EAX. What's at the, well, that's weird, FS18, help on command. Moves contents of 32-bit memory at location FS18 to 32-bit register EAX flags are affected. FS18. Anyone who has manually looked at is debugger present? Let's go ahead and see if we can find that real quick. Search for names. Is debugger present? Double click that and follow it to its actual location. Move EAX dword pointer FS30. We may be having a manual call to, or a manual implementation of get is debugger present. Because if you were to take this code right here, pass the right values, and run it yourself, you'll get the same return value without having a call to a named function. So let's take a look and see what that, if that's what's happening. Okay, so FS18 is now in EAX, which is 38D. Move EAX, what is at the address of EAX plus 30. Okay, move EAX dword that is at the address of EAX plus 2. Okay, and we're going to get FFF0001. And it's going to say push ECX X or ECX EACX, so it clears it out. Move CL to AL, so the last bit of AL. Move EAX ECX. So now we have just a 1. And pop ECX back in to restore its value. Add ESP2C and do a return. So now we have a 1 in EAX, and we are going to in fact return to right here. And let's go ahead and do that. And now at this point it says check and see if EAX is equal or not equal. So if it is not equal, which it's not, then it's going to jump us up to, and testing if it's equal is whether or not it's equal to 0 or not. So if it is not equal to 0, then jump. Now we see that that's jumping to exit our program. So yes, we did in fact have a manual call to is debugger present, sneaky sneaky, because it took that value and said, not warning you, hey, debugger detected. No, it just says, oh, I'm going to close this program now. So we want to make sure that we go ahead and flip that bit, so it's not going to jump us out of the program. And then we see the very next line looks rather strange. Move into the dword pointer this, the hardcode offset of this gibberish here, and okay, okay. And if we were to press F8, we would probably get some weird results. So what we want to do is highlight all of this and do a right-click analysis and remove analysis from selection. There we go. So now we see that it's actually a call to sprintf. And we see that we're going to be moving into EAX and we cause an access violation. So at this point, the program is causing an error. And it's at that point going to now have an unhandled exception, which would put us at our address F014FC if there's no other thing. So we told it, hey, this is where you need to go if you hit an exception. So before we do anything else, let's go to expression, and we see that that's right here. So we want to actually new origin here, and that's going to help us. We see that we have a blank console window, nothing's printed yet, and let's go ahead and F8 from right there, and it's there we go, F8, please register to continue, printf, and I hit F8 on something that had a breakpoint on it, and these would have never been hit if we were just hit like run or anything like that. And I realize that that is taking up the whole screen, so let me move it over here. There we go. And so at this point, we are within this, and I want to come back right here. So I'm going to hit a breakpoint here and hit F9. There we go. So now it says, please register to continue. We'll hit F8, follow this down, and then here I'm going to put one below it because I breakpointed these like a nub, and hit F9, and now it's going to be prompting us name, F8888 scanf, F8 jump over it. Now it's waiting for us to put in a name. From here, we now can actually start looking at reverse engineering the actual program. We've circumvented every anti-disassembly, every anti-debug in various different forms. One's designed to prevent debugger from attaching, one's from preventing a debugger from being able to run it, ones that confuse the hell out of a debugger or a disassembler. And then this last chunk right here was kind of the last bit that really, if everybody got through, you know, if you got lucky and you saw, oh, I recognize this as a manual call to, you know, is debugger present, and you started it there, and you went, oh, nah, I don't want that to happen. I'm going to move over here, and you came to this, and you're like, okay, I see what you did there. You're copying into a location that is smaller than your string you're trying to put into it. You're going to cause an exception. You're going to overflow that buffer. And if you let Ollie analyze it, it looks like this. So that all gets kind of hidden. So you have to kind of know that if you see things like this, a lot of times you don't want Ollie to assume what it might be, and so this whole module, just remove analysis, because then you'll see the actual lines as you go through. And you would notice, oh, I remember there's a second call to set unhandled exception filter, and now I see that they are creating an exception. So let's go to that noted address and see what's happening. And we see that that is our actual true entry point of our code. And at that point, we see that we are actually being prompted for all these things. But if we were to reload this, none of these strings would be there. The decoy ones would be there, but these ones weren't written yet. Now, just to kind of demonstrate that, let's go ahead and rerun this. We know that this is at the address Go back a bit here. Yeah, so here's a callback here. So it begins at the one that we notated, 4014FC. And I'm just going to pull this down a bit, and we'll take a quick snipping tool. And if I am correct and remember this properly, we'll notice that none of these strings are actually there, but these ones will be. So we'll grab all those down to 5DO, and I'll just set that off to the side over here. And let's do a rinse and repeat real quick. And go to that address, right click, go to expression 4014FC, and you see that now none of those strings have loaded. You see that there are printf, scanf, so those are there. This one I didn't actually manually load those in, but yeah, that's okay. One extra layer we would have if we wanted them would be to manually load in these calls with get proc address and load module A or W, depending on whether you're using Unicode or not, and have a further impact of obfuscation or hiding what you're actually doing. And yeah, that would have been a lot more work, and didn't want to do all that, so I didn't. That being said, here we see that our actual code does start here and ends about here. That is the actual code for testing, gathering your key and everything. And we notice that some of these things don't happen obviously. And the yeah, right, all of this other stuff, and the coded in dummies were actually, if we search for reference strings, you'll see some randomness. Yeah, please register to continue, name, pass, all these things. I fell for the decoy. Got it. So there's actually paths that if you don't follow it appropriately, you can lead down that path and it'll be like, oh, well, that was a dead end. And all of these strings referenced as a decoy later are loaded and referenced appropriately after that big unpackingness happens. It's moving things to addresses to be referenced later. So I think that's gonna be it for tonight. It is late. I do need to go to bed. Got lots to do tomorrow, including work, and yeah, gotta be up pretty early. So overall, not the greatest start to first set of live videos here. Not the worst, I'm sure, but we can only go up from there. And today we covered a lot of information and spent about 3 hours doing it. That being said, thank you all for watching. Totally, comment what you'd like to see, what you would like more expansion on, more coverage, any basics. What I currently have planned after this is go through some of my original crack means that I pulled up, I wrote. I know what's going on with them, but it's been between 4 and 12 years since I've looked at them. I don't have the original code anymore. I just have the executables, and some of them have solutions with them that will actually go over how somebody else went about reverse engineering those and what they learned along the way. And as we're just kind of covering things, we'll go into depth over questions that might arise in chat and make new videos from there. Kind of want to let you guys lead it. If you have questions of, how do you do this, or what can you do when this happens, I'll try to find real world applicable examples. If I can't, I'll find something that is pre-coded to demonstrate that very thing, and we'll go from there. Definitely don't have a set schedule for these now, so if you want to get notifications as to when they be popping up, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell thing. I believe that sends out a notification when live is happening. and that way you won't miss out, because it's going to be sporadic. I'll be completely honest with you. I'll do them when I have time. And if I do say that there's this day I'm going to do one, that day there'll be one, my time, Pacific Standard, so it may not be the same day for all of you, but I won't be able to know when I'm going to be able to hop in here and actually spend an hour or 2 or 3 just enjoying the time and going through some stuff. And of course I have taken a break from a lot of this, so we're going to be stumbling on things that I'll be like, oh yeah, and we'll learn together. And that's really the goal for all of this, is to encourage people to jump into programs, do some reverse engineering, read through the machine code, understand the basic level of logic, how it is very linear, and even though you can have threads running, they're also linear within that linearity. And when you compile any program down to it, it has to get to this, because this is what the processor understands. So if you can understand this, nothing can stop you. And with enough time, persistence, you can do anything. And that's really where we're at. So thanks again, and we'll catch you next time.